All right, what's up, YouTube? This is BoxingWave, and we are back. This video is pretty much gonna wrap up everything that occurred over the weekend. And if you were here live the other night for the Devin Haney, George Kambosos live commentary, you kind of know what my views are for the most part. Okay. I was able to listen to a lot of interviews. You had a post-fight interviews over the weekend, all the other separate interviews. I watched some of it, most of it, was able to listen to what a lot of people had to say about the fight and moving forward. But we're gonna get into all of that. Okay. I'm gonna get to Devin Haney and George Kambosos fight last, and where I think both fighters should move on from there. I mean, there's a lot, so much to really discuss, man, when it comes to that fight and Undisputed in general. All right. Before we get started, just wanted to let you guys know I just dropped the breakdown for Donaire and Inoue too. I just dropped it, so be sure to check that out. The fight is early tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern. The card actually starts at 5:30 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Plus. Okay, so I will do live commentary, but I'm not going to do live commentary for the full card. Okay, I'll probably go live around 7 a.m. All right, maybe a little bit earlier, maybe a little later. I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna see where they at on the card, and I'll jump on. All right. It's very, very early because this fight is in Japan, so their time zone is completely different. You already know how that works. But I will jump on live tomorrow morning. So if you guys, especially if you are here in the States and you're up early, you want to tune into the fight or listen to the fight, or you're getting ready for work, whatever it is you're doing, be sure to jump on because I will be on at 7 a.m. the latest Eastern time. All right. I don't know about you guys that's on the West Coast, because I think it's completely different for y'all. Uh, because I think at that time, if it's 7 a.m. for us, it'll be like 4 a.m. for y'all. So I doubt I'll see too many West Coast folks on here, but I will definitely be on. I'm gonna set my alarm and I'm gonna do that live commentary because the first fight was an excellent fight. Was definitely my favorite fight of 2019. So be sure to jump on and check out the breakdown that I did. I had a redo. I actually had a redo because I was having sound issues. That's the reason why it's so late. I really wanted to have it out done by last week, but with time and everything, it's tough. All right, so yeah, let's talk about the entire weekend first before we get started with Stephen Fulton and Devin Haney and stuff. Let's just talk about the and salute to everyone that's coming in, man. Brandon Tudor, what's up? On the Rise was popping. Eddie Morales was good with you. Tube Fatty was going on. All right. Yeah, man. Thank you, On the Rise. Yeah, I've been trying to, you know what? I drop as much content as I can. I'm never gonna be, let me not say never, but I'm not gonna be the most active YouTuber. I know there's a lot of content creators that's able to drop every single day throughout the day. I have a lot of stuff going on, but I will try my best to drop as much content. And I made it where the breakdowns are a priority. The breakdowns and the review of the fight are a priority. Boxing news comes after that, and then everything else comes after that. Okay. But priority is the breakdowns because there's not many channels giving breakdowns out there like that. I mean, there are some good ones, but there's not many of them. So that is the priority of this channel. I always say that to you guys. The priority is the breakdowns, and then everything else is first. Rumors, pay-per-views, numbers, all of that is dead last. All right, so that's the way that we're gonna do. Thank you, Thomas, for the donation. Thank you for the superb commentary and repping my favorite hood, Harlem, USA. Always, thank you. Appreciate the support too. So look, before we get into the and before we get into the to Devin Haney and Stephen Fulton, let's just talk about the two wild knockouts we saw. Um, if you was watching on the early pre-fights on Devin Haney against George Kambosos, Lucas Browne fought Junior Fa. All right. I was able to go back and watch a little bit of that. I noticed at the top ranked posts, there were a lot of people in the comments complaining about illegal blows. Okay. Basically, rabbit punches. That, people feel that Lucas Browne could have or should have been disqualified for those two punches. That's not even something that I was even thinking about when I saw that knockout. I mean, that was the last thing I thought about. Look, this is how I feel about that. When and correct me if I'm wrong, or you know what, if we disagree, we disagree. Fair. When I think of like rabbit punches, right? I'm thinking of like, close range, deliberate punches around the head, all right, to the back of the head. Or I think of most rabbit punches, you're tied up and you're throwing punches while you're tied up in the back of the head. Okay. That's what I think of rabbit punches or punches to the back. Like that should be illegal, especially if you hurt your opponent. I do not see that being an intentional rabbit punch, especially the first punch. The first punch was on the side of the head, and it was a counter punch. If you look at the fight, Junior Fa threw a jab, right? And you saw Lucas Browne come around and throw a right hand behind that jab. And it did hit him in the rear of his head, but not in the full rear, but like behind his ear. All right. It's not an intentional punch. You know what I'm saying? It was a counter punch, and it wasn't directly in the rear of his head. All right. So for the people that's going out there and are saying that there should have been a disqualification or this was an illegal punch, that is not considered a rabbit punch, at least not to me. All right. The second punch was more like a clubbing right hand where Fa, first of all, I don't even think the fight should have continued because Fa was clearly still out on his feet. But the right punch, the second punch was more in the back of his head. You got to understand, Fa was ducking to his right as that punch was coming. If you duck or turn into the punch and it happens to hit you in the back of the head, that's not a rabbit punch. Okay. It happens all of the time. When fighters duck and try to slip the punch and you hit them in the back of the head because they're ducking, that's different. It's not like Maidana when Floyd and Maidana was fighting each other and, they're both in close range. And Maidana is he's throwing punches from the sky straight down to the back of Floyd's head and the top of Floyd's head. That's totally different. It's very intentional and actually made it a good fight. But technically, it was a lot of illegal punches thrown in that fight. It made a great fight, but technically, Maidana, we know how Maidana gets busy. He's a wild fighter, so he was doing what he was doing to win the fight. But that is an illegal punch, as opposed to you ducking and a punch hitting you in the back of the head. So the first punch was not illegal at all. All right, it was a counter right hand. And it wasn't even really in the rear of Fa's head. And the second punch did hit the rear of his head, but it was because he ducked and what's his name? Browne punched down into it. You know what I'm saying? So I don't even think the fight should have continued after the first knockdown. All right. But anyway, I just wanted to clear that up. It was a crazy knockout. Again, if you didn't see it, look up Lucas Browne against Junior Fa, F-A. And it was a crazy knockout. In fact, I had Lucas Browne getting knocked out. I didn't even see that. That was kind of crazy. That was kind of wild. I was expecting Fa to win and possibly win by knockout. I was not expecting that knockdown, especially because Joseph Parker, who's literally the only person that Fa fought that was good, went the distance with him. You know what I'm saying? And Parker, is not the biggest KO artist out there, but he can definitely crack, especially when he was you know, in his earlier stages of his pro career. You know what I'm saying? When he was still a prospect and he was coming up with AJ and Dillian White and they were having their run, Parker was definitely knocking out a lot of dudes. I was so surprised to see Junior Fox get knocked out in the first round. Again, it goes with part of the reason why I say not fighting top tier fighters as a heavyweight, and you're really not that active neither. And he lost in his last fight. So that's part of the reason why. All right. Joe Cordina, another wild knockout, probably knockout of the year. Again, Kenichi Ogawa. It's another fight where I didn't do a prediction. I wanted to, but I really didn't know, was unsure how I saw it. Because Joe Cordina, I didn't really know enough of him to sit here and try to tell you what he can really do. Because Ogawa, I've seen him a good amount of times. Cordina, I'm just learning about him, and I was able to go back and watch his stuff, but I still have a lot of questions about him. I don't know how durable he is. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't view, from what I saw from, didn't seem like much of a puncher. So when we saw that first round or second round knockout the other day, which is knockout of the year, please look it up. Joe Cordina against Kenichi Ogawa at 130. This is for a title at 130. We already know Shakur Stevenson has two of them now. That knockout was crazy. Right hand puts him to sleep. It was over. Kenichi Ogawa was done. He got smoked in that fight. Check that knockout out. Crazy knockout. Like I said on a live the other day, I would like for, of course, I want Undisputed. I want it Undisputed everywhere. But realistically, I think if Joe can get to Gutierrez first, if he can win that fight, and then him come in or not undisputed, but unified. If he can come in unified, Shakur could come in unified, and they could get a fight going, that would be great. You know, but whatever way, whatever order, I just want Undisputed at the end. Again, I already told you guys my stance on Shakur Stevenson. There's no rush for him to go to 135 because most of the fighters, top tier fighters, and we're going to talk more about that later in this videos. Most of those top tier fighters are not fighting each other anyway. So Shakur should become Undisputed at 130. Do what he has to do there. Get more experience, all right? He's already considered to be pound for pound by most. And then go up to 135 and fight whoever's a top tier guy. There's plenty of guys there. You got Ryan, you got Devin, you got Tank, you got Loma, you got all of these guys still there. George, you still got a lot of fighters there. There's plenty of time to do your thing at 135. There's no reason to rush up there. There's plenty of work at 135. And most of them, again, are not fighting each other. Why rush up there and just be sitting around fighting people? Because I don't believe that people are going to be looking to fight Shakur. You know, I think at the end of the day, just like Valdez moved from 126 and went to 130 when Shakur was his mandatory. All right. Shakur basically had to track him now, and we know why now. You know, I don't think anybody's going to be sitting around in line waiting for to fight Shakur Stevenson. You know, regardless of what he accomplishes, unless he becomes a megastar and he's making millions and millions per fight, I don't see anyone sitting around waiting to fight Shakur Stevenson. You know, it's just he's too good of a technical boxer to be chased. You know. All right, but Joe Cordina, good win. Again, good win. I do believe that he can beat Gutierrez. I do believe he can beat Gutierrez, but I don't believe that any of those guys can touch Shakur Stevenson. You know, and I think Shakur, I mean, it was a good knockout, but I think Shakur is way better. And you know, I don't even know if a Cordina could beat a Valdez still, because we can't just forget that Valdez is still out there. I know he just lost, but Valdez is still, to me, the second best fighter at 130, unless somebody proves otherwise. You know, even though he's not the champion, I still see him to be the best fighter at 130, right after what's it called? Right after Shakur Stevenson. All right. So that's how I look at it for now, and we'll see. Now, let's move on. Stephen Fulton. Stephen Fulton, if you're not on Stephen Fulton yet, if you're not really checking out his stuff, I know a lot of his fights keep coming on. He's sharing nights with different networks, with bigger fights, and I know a lot of people are not talking about him, like the way they should. Stephen Fulton, when we talk about Shakur and we talk about Devin and these highly technical fighters, Stephen Fulton is right there with them. Let me make that clear. He's right there with him. All right. In fact, as I watch the Fulton Roman fight, because we're talking about a former unified champion, all right, at 122. All right. Fulton dispatched of Roman easily. I mean, I can't see Roman winning any more than 1 or 2 rounds. Fulton not only made it easy, he boxed beautifully, right? But it's not boring, right? He's willing to go to war with you. Now, in this fight, it was a different approach. It wasn't the same approach that we got in the Figueroa or the Leo fight. But he's able to completely outbox you and still make it look good at the same time. The hand speed, the movement, the timing, you know what I'm saying? Just he's giving us different looks. You know what I'm saying? He can fight on the inside. He defends very, very well. Quick reflexes. He's so well-rounded and versatile. And I said this in a breakdown, but in this fight here, he made a top-tier fighter at 122 look very regular, look very basic, And even when Roman lost to MJ a couple of years back, it wasn't nearly as, it was a very competitive fight. It wasn't nearly as clear. Whereas Fulton went there and made it look like Roman is just a regular fighter. You know what I'm saying? And he's the next one, in my opinion, to be undisputed. And he's had an amazing run. I know everybody's talking about, because I'm gonna dip in back and forth, and I'm gonna go into a little bit of the Devin Haney fight. One thing about this undisputed run that we've been getting in boxing, first of all, I love it. I love it. And you got to give all these fighters credit that's becoming undisputed now, because it's harder to do it now because you have 4 belts. You have to actually collect 4. It's not 3, it's not 2, it's not 1. It's 4 belts you have to chase to become undisputed. It's very, very hard. So now that we've had a good amount of them, right? We had Bud Crawford, we had Usyk, we had Canelo, Jamel Charlo, now we have Devin Haney. We have all of these fighters that recently became undisputed. Oh, Josh Taylor, can't forget him. You have all these fighters, and now what we've been doing is comparing who had the better run, and I think that's not something you can really control, because you can't control who's in the division. All you can do is beat who the best is in the division. Some say that Josh Taylor, who I believe Josh Taylor, maybe Usyk, probably had the best runs. You know what I'm saying? They probably had the best runs because they really had really tough fights leading up to the undisputed. You know what I'm saying? They really fought the best of the best of the best. I think Crawford did the same, but I think the quality of the fighters there outside of Postal weren't really that top tier as far as pound for pound, right? You had Canelo, who had a good run, and it was the quickest run. But a lot of that is privilege because Canelo's a superstar, and everybody wants to fight him, right? Because everybody wants that payday. You know what I'm saying? So, good fights, very good fights, but I wouldn't put that on a level of like maybe a Usyk and a Josh Taylor. Those were my 2 favorites. Then you had Jamel, who took his loss, had his draw, but I still feel that those fighters at 154 are on a better level as far as skill set. You know what I'm saying? And then you have 122, where we don't have undisputed yet, but we can see Fulton and see who he's fought. And he's beaten some of these guys in their own style. I mean, his run has just been incredible. Not just Leo and Figueroa, but he was fighting nothing but undefeated fighters over and over again. You know what I'm saying? He's taken away the O's off their record. And then he led up to Leo and fought his fight and beat him at his own game, giving us a very entertaining fight. And then went on to fight Figueroa and do the same thing. And I think the fight could have gone either way. It was a very close fight. And I said to you guys the other day, I believe that these guys are going to fight again at some point. You know, probably at 126 though. You know, I think these guys are going to meet there again at some point. But a very, very close fight. But I like this fight with Roman because Fulton actually fought a disciplined fight. Fulton is a guy that likes to, he can box really good. He's a very good defender, but he likes to engage. He likes to mix it up. You know what I'm saying? He reminds me, and well, not in the way they fight completely, but Tim Bradley. Tim Bradley's a very good boxer. When you saw him fight Marquez, right? He outboxed Marquez and made it look easy. He looked really slippery in that fight. But normally, Bradley will give away his boxing technique advantage to his opponents and go to war. He likes to go to war. And he's not even a big puncher, but he went to war with so many fighters that he didn't have to go to war with. He could have just simply outboxed them. And I feel like Fulton is the same type of guy. Like he likes to fight on the inside against fighters that fight on the inside. You know what I'm saying? He likes to trade. He likes to do all of that. But Fulton in this fight here, he made it. He outboxed him and he stuck to the game plan every single round while giving us some good power shots. He was working behind the jab. Yes, he was out jabbing Danny Roman, but he would find periods to try to ambush him and made it entertaining. It wasn't like just all jabs. All right, it just wasn't like all jabs. Now, when we talk about Devin Haney, Devin won the fight mostly off jabs. And I think with Devin Haney, what people got to understand, like, because I was watching some of the fight again, and I think what people got to understand with Haney is Haney is either you love him or hate him. There's going to be no in between with him. The thing about Haney is that Haney is so disciplined that if he's winning a fight and he's picking up rounds, he's not going to change and shift to no other way when he's winning. He's so disciplined that he's going to go all 12 rounds fighting whatever way. The only time we're going to see Haney change anything is if Haney is losing the fight or he's getting hit more than he's used to getting hit. That's why fights with Jojo Diaz or Jorge Linares were a little bit more entertaining because Haney was getting hit more in those fights. George never figured out Haney's jab. So Haney just never stopped jabbing. I'm not going to go for the knockout if this is working for me. Because at the end of the day, he wanted to walk out of there undefeated and undisputed. He made it clear, not in the way that we expected. A lot of people felt that because he was fighting in Australia, he needed to do more. He needed to dominate, which he did. He dominated. He won every round, or basically maybe I think I gave a couple rounds, maybe 2 rounds to George the most. But he wanted to go in there and dominate. Some people said he needed a knockout. You know, I thought it was too wide to even rob him. At the end of that fight, not even at the end, I think if you guys were here, what round was I saying? 8th, 9th round, I was already saying, like, there's no way they can rob this dude. He's winning so clear that George needs a knockout himself to win. Like, Haney can get dropped and still be comfortable enough to win a decision. You know what I'm saying? So Haney is that guy that's not going to change the strategy. He's a chess player, and he's going to play that. He's going to play the same way the whole fight. And you just got to realize that that's him. It might not be your cup of tea. You know what I'm saying? And that's cool. Some people think he's boring. That's cool. It's on you. You like what you like. You know, I'm not one of those guys that's like, if you don't like Haney, I'm not going to sit here and say you a hater. I mean, unless you are a hater based on what you're saying. But if you don't like Haney and you're not entertained by him, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? It's cool. You like what you like. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was bringing that up a little bit more. Like, when 135, when we look at 135, you got a group of guys that all fight differently, right? You know, Haney, the only guy Haney gets compared to is Shakur Stevenson, who's not even in the division, but they got history, right? They sparred. It's up on YouTube. Haney and Tank are completely two different guys, and a lot of people love Tank. Why? Because he brings the knockouts. People love Tank. Brings the KOs, right? You got Lobachenko, who has a way of, he can do a little bit both. He can outbox you for 12. He could make you quit, or he can stop you. He could do a little bit of whatever. Everybody likes everybody different. You got Ryan Garcia, who is a knockout guy. You might love him. Why? Because he's getting the knockout. You might like Teofimo Lopez because he's going for the knockout. That's what he does. Haney's a guy that's fully disciplined. He's disciplined. He's not trying to do anything more than what he needs to do to win. And once I saw him win and beat George Kambosos off his jab, I said, okay, the Gamboa fight, we hated that fight, right? Because we felt like Gamboa was a guy that Haney could have really knocked out. But Haney is winning. Gamboa is not doing anything, and he sticks to the game plan no matter what. And that's who he is. It is what it is. You just got to live with it at this point. Because the Kambosos fight was more proof that he's so disciplined, he's not going to change. And another thing, I blame the fight for the people that thought it was boring. I blame it on George Kambosos. You know why? Because you're letting someone, you just beat Teofimo Lopez in New York. You came to New York, you faced adversity, you got dropped, you're getting attacked by one of the hardest punchers in the division. And you still found a way to grit it out and win, right? But against Haney, you couldn't even get around his jab. The jab alone, I mean, listen, I don't want to take nothing away from Haney because Haney landed a good amount of hooks, a good amount of right hands. You know, he had a beautiful one too. He kept it in his back pocket. You know, that's what I was saying about Donaire in the video I just did. Donaire, we know you got a big left hook. Keep it in your back. Keep it tucked. Keep it tucked. Don't just bring it out every chance you get. Keep it tucked. And that's what Devin Haney did in this fight. He kept the right hand tucked. Like, I'm going to hit you with a 1-2. After these, I'm going to throw 30 jabs at you. And then at some point, I'm going to throw a 1-2. And I throw it so rarely, you're not going to see it coming. And George Kambosos couldn't figure it out. He got out jabbed and he couldn't figure it out. It reminds me of Triple G and Lemieux. Lemieux had all this power going into that fight. I mean, they both had power, but they both use it differently. You know, Triple G decided to invest in that fight. He didn't go in there and with the same approach as he did in other fights like Willie Monroe or Proska or all those guys. No, when he fought Lemieux. Lemieux was a dangerous puncher. So he stuck with the jab. And he out-jabbed him to death, and Lemieux couldn't get around the jab. Now, Triple G got the knockout still, but this is what happens when you fight really disciplined fighters that Go in there and whatever the game plan, if plan A, you don't even have to go into plan B or plan C. I'm sure Devin Haney had one. But when you lose to strictly the jab for 12 rounds, I don't want to see a rematch. What are we rematching for? You didn't even get past the jab. The fight was boring because of you. You weren't even throwing any punches. He got completely neutralized. And Devin Haney said it prior to the fight. Like, I'm going to take all your best. I'm just going to dismantle you. I'm going to take all your best weapons away from you. And he did it with a jab. With a jab. If anybody got exposed, Kambosos got exposed. Teofimo Lopez already got exposed. He got exposed. It's all about the game plan, and it's all about winning at the end of the day. It's all about winning. You know, people talking about, oh, he was playing it too safe. He was this. No, bro. He don't have to play until what gives you an advantage. This is boxing. You have to force him to do something different. Take his jab away. Take it away. Just like he dismantled you of your best weapons, you have to do it. His jab is his best weapon. You have to take it away. Devin Haney doesn't have to water himself down for you. That's not how it works in boxing, especially at this elite level. It doesn't work that way. I don't have to give you an advantage. I don't have to handicap myself to make the fight more entertaining or competitive for you. I don't have to do that. And I think we all tend to do it. People are just, when it comes to everybody else in the division, you gotta understand, Haney hasn't been fully pushed to the point where he's down on rounds. He hasn't, because he's usually winning almost every round. JoJo got him for a few rounds. Linares got him for a couple rounds. Outside of that, we haven't really seen him losing, or you know what I'm saying? No one has. In fact, JoJo Diaz did better than Kambosos. Let's talk about that. Linares and JoJo Diaz did better than Kambosos. But everybody was talking about JoJo Diaz being just a smaller guy, 126 guy. What I'm saying is, when it comes to time, and again, I said this the other day, I've been more impressed with certain wins from Tank and Loma in the past, because he was able to dominate fighters while taking risk. And that's just my taste. That's my personal taste. Something against Haney. I think Haney is the most disciplined of them all, because there's no real showboating. It's just, I'm going to outbox you and stick to my plan. You know, he's the most disciplined. I think the other guys like a Lomachenko and a Tank, and I think they're a little bit more entertaining, because they like to go for the knockout. You know what I'm saying? They'll give up rounds, but they're losing rounds. You know, I mean, their fights could be more entertaining, but they're giving up rounds to make them more entertaining. And Devin Haney is not willing to do that. He's not going to be getting hit. He's not going to be walking into jabs like Tank versus Mario Barrios, or Tank versus Leo Santa Cruz. He's not going to just be walking into everything that's thrown into him. That's not the way he fights. You know, Tank against what was this guy he just beat? Rolly? That was a completely different Tank. Same with Isaac Cruz. Is a completely different Tank Davis. That's the Haney version of him. Basically, that's the Haney version. That's a guy that's going to be on the move, keeping distance, and trying to outscore you round by round, or just being defensive. That's the Haney version of Tank. And at least with Rolly, he still got the knockout. Again, let me say this, and shout out to everyone that's here. I know you guys are leaving a lot of comments. Because you know, I still got a lot more to talk about. Shout out to everybody that's joining us. All right. What's up, Leon? What's up on the rise? Sio, how you say your name? Co Abel. Julius, what's up? Misbah, Fidel, Randy, Gab, Bob, D Young. Shout out to everyone that's here. Drummond, Beth, Rocket, Romanian Mike, Igor, David, Clayton, what's up? What's up, everyone there? Yeah, and definitely hit that like button. David says, hey, Wave, you're live at my time. Congratulations to Devin Haney, now undisputed. He might just turn out to be the best of them all. Yeah, he might be. You know, it's all about getting those wins. Beth says, if you look at it, Usyk is the only one to successfully defend his belts. I would put Josh Taylor on there, but that controversial win just didn't help Taylor. No, it was a loss. It was a loss to me in my book. You know, I'm not gonna give guys credit for fights that I just don't think they won. You know, I don't think it was a debatable. I think he just lost a fight. You know, I think you know, there's a robbery. Igor says, "Was good way did I see the size difference between Campbell and Haney? Haney is huge for his division. He looked like a skeleton with no cheeks before weight, and that's why he had a hoodie on. I mean, look. Oh, and David Evans says the Haney game plan was simple: outboxing with your jab and footwork, clinch and close, and keep him guessing. Simple, it's boxing, and it worked. Yeah, and going back to Haney. Yeah, he's bigger than Kambosos. But so was Tio. And Tio lost. And Tio's a bigger puncher. And Tio connected a lot. Was even able to drop him. You know what I'm saying? What's up, Chainwood Ice? What's up, Craig? Ong. Um, yeah, man. He did what he was supposed to do, man. And he's not gonna change the game plan up for anybody. It is what it is. You know, now that he's undisputed officially, there's a lot of work to do. I really don't know how long he's going to stay at 135, and I really don't know if he's going to even win his very next fight. You know, if we don't get a rematch, which I hope we don't, I know Bob is working on trying to get him to fight Loma in his very next fight. All right. I think the fight with Tank or Loma should be made. If not Loma, it should be Tank. If not Tank, it should be Loma. I don't care. Pick or choose. Either one of them is cool with me. Tank holds a baby WBA title, and Loma was supposed to be the next opponent. You know, Loma lost to Tio, but you got to remember, Loma picked up 3 of those straps before losing to Tio, and then got 2 wins after the loss, which they were good wins. So either one is cool, but I want it to be one of those 2. All right. Again, all of these fighters, somebody said on the channel the other day on the comments that these belts at 135 are cursed. All right. I think I think Devin Haney, if possible, he should be able to drop that franchise title. You know, now that he has won it, if there's a way to get rid of that title, I think he should go and have a meeting with the WBC and get rid of that title. That title is not good for boxing. We don't need it. It doesn't mean anything. It's just caused problems. And it has also kept fighters from becoming undisputed earlier. All right. Because we could have had an undisputed. All that franchise title did was ruin that division. That's all it did. You know what I'm saying? We don't need franchise. It's hurt Devin Haney because he was once the mandatory, and I'm not gonna put all the blame on Lomachenko because the Haneys, both Bill and Devin should have done their part in fighting for that WBC fight. You know, if you know, I mean, I know Mauricio Solomon had a meeting with Bill Haney, and I did watch it, and they should have fought instead of letting that slide. They should have did everything in their power to make sure they got that fight. All right, there should have never been a what's it called, a franchise title. So if Devin Haney can meet with the WBC and find a way to become or still be the WBC champ without having a franchise title, because a franchise is it's not even what it was supposed to be when it was created. It's been transferred to how many fighters? They gave it to Loma when he became WBC champ, and then it got transferred to Tio, to George, and now to Haney. And it's supposed to be a non-transferable title. You know what I'm saying? So there's no reason to have that belt. And it's supposed to keep you from fighting mandatories, yet Canelo fought a mandatory with the WBC. It makes no sense. It doesn't belong in boxing. So I think Haney should do something to get rid of that title, because we don't want to keep using that franchise title as an excuse to duck your mandatories. All right. And then, mind you, I was always with Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez fighting for unification over the Haney fight, only because I want Undisputed. Charles Edward Cheese. Thank you, my brother, man. Always, thank you. Support the love, man. Much love, man. Thank you. Yeah. Shout out to you, man. Crazy. I'm always in support of unification in Undisputed first. So I just want them to get rid of that, and I don't want it to be in effect at 135 from this point on. All right. So I think that should be the first thing. Again, I'm cool with either Tank or Loma. It looks like it's going to be Loma because Loma is an in-house fight. You know, Devin Haney is officially signed with Top Rank. If Loma is good to return to boxing, I don't know where he's at right now. I don't know if he's, you know, what's going on with the Ukraine. But if he's able to come back and fight, I'm cool with that. And I'm cool with Tank. You know, I'm cool with whatever. But again, these belts has been being passed around like crazy. No one's been able to defend them. And I think that fight is going to be a very good fight. It's going to be a very good fight. It's going to be a great fight. I can't wait to see it. I see both fighters having clear advantages, over each other. You know, Haney is the naturally bigger guy. He has the longer arms. He has a jab that Loma's going to have to deal with. But Loma is better, much better than George Kambosos. I expected Loma to dispatch of George Kambosos easily, just like Haney did. But I didn't think it was going to be much trouble for Loma. And it wasn't really much trouble for Haney either. But George looked exactly like I thought George looked before the Kambosos fight. I never thought anything was special. And I think most of us believe that we were talking about Haney. We were talking about Ryan. We were talking about Tank. We wanted Teofimo Lopez to fight other fighters over George. No one was really asking for the George Kambosos fight. But once he beat Tio, and it was a great fight, and it was a great display of heart and skills and stuff and discipline, George went into this fight with Haney, and he looked just as average as he's looked in past fights. You know, when I saw a Mickey Bay fight, I thought it was a very, very basic fight. I saw the Lee Selby fight, and I thought it was just a very basic fight. And George looked like that one against Haney. Outside of the Teofimo Lopez fight, I've never saw anything special about George Kambosos. All right. I gave him, you know, I knew he was going to be tough, but I was basing it off the Teofimo Lopez fight. And I have to really say, like I said earlier in this video, George got exposed. If anybody got exposed, George Kambosos got exposed. You know, because me thinking him coming into this fight, I thought he had great timing. You know, I thought he was a great, good counterpuncher. I thought he had good hand speed, and I'm basing a lot of this stuff off his win against Lopez because that is the best he's ever looked, and he fought against a very wild, undisciplined, terrible corner of George Kambosos, and who's got a guy that's going through a whole bunch of personal things in his life. So if anybody got exposed, George Kambosos got exposed. But the Lomachenko fight with Lomachenko and Devin Haney would be great. And listen, if Devin Haney is to win that fight as well, you have to respect him. You have to respect him at that point. Because as I see it, Loma and Devin Haney is a 50-50 fight for real. And I'm not talking about judges. I'm not talking about location. Okay, I'm not talking about top rank this and this. I'm not talking about any politics. I'm talking about the actual fight is a 50-50 fight because it's going to take more than a jab to beat Lomachenko. Everybody had a jab against Lomachenko. It takes more than that to be, yes, smash that like button for real. It's going to take a little bit more than that. And maybe Haney is one of those fighters that has to get forced to going into his bag of tricks. Because if he's winning and he's winning whatever, if plan A works, he's not going to go into plan B or C. Loma is a guy that you probably going to have to go into plan B and C. You know what I'm saying? So we just got to wait and see. Hopefully the fight goes down. But if it does go down, whoever wins, I'm going to give them full credit. I'm going to give full credit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. All right. And let me make one thing clear. It doesn't matter who we feel is the best once you become undisputed. We all like certain styles more. We all have our preferences. Tank, Ryan, Loma, whoever it is for you. Devin Haney is the official champion. Officially undisputed. All right? Undisputed. I give a lot of credit for Loma because he was 3-belt champion before. Tank, I'm still waiting for Tank to fight the people that he does not select. So as good as Tank is, and as much as I give him credit because some of the fighters he fought are good fighters, I still want him to go after the belts. I don't want him to just be comfortable with fighting with baby belts. He got a belt at 130 twice, the official ones. But when he moved up to 135, he was comfortable with just the baby WBA. And then when he moved to 140, he was comfortable with just the baby WBA again. I love Tank. I think he's good enough to beat anybody, but he has to prove it. And I'm not going to continue making comments and videos about who I think would win if they were to fight. We know that Tank is a star. We know that he sells a lot of tickets. He's a fun fighter to watch. He's a good boxer. I don't think he gets the credit for his skills, but he can also knock you out. But I want him to actually go after a belt. And I actually want him to fight someone that we all desire him to fight. Not just good fighters. Those fighters he fought are good. I just want him to fight someone that we all want him to fight. Haney, Ryan, Loma, Tio. Those guys. Shakur Stevenson. Those guys. Those are the real ones. I don't want to see him keep fighting whoever Mayweather Promotions if he resigns with them or whatever, how that works. That's all I'm saying. All right. So yeah, congratulations to Devin Haney. And we got to remember too, salute to all of these fighters, including him, that became undisputed. They, from Crawford and Usyk and all the way down, they made it cool, and they made it where fighters want to be undisputed. Fighters are not just looking to become a champ and be a champ at multiple divisions. I think that's a good thing, to become a title holder in different divisions. I like it. I love it. But what I like more is unification. What I like more is undisputed. I want you to go up. That's my stance. I think it's so much better when a fighter can dominate one or two divisions, right? They can dominate one or two divisions, and then you know what I'm saying, and or just that. When you could dominate more than one division instead of just winning one title and moving up, it means so much more. I just feel like I seen your chop. Yeah. Fernie says, nah, boxing way. Teal started the undisputed movement. Yeah, in his mind. I like when a fighter can show that. And let's go back to Stephen Fulton. I want him to fight MJ Akhmadaliev for that undisputed thing. That's gonna be a good fight. Akhmadaliev is a southpaw, a very good boxer. That's gonna be a good fight. I think Stephen Fulton has proven that he's better than him. I think Stephen Fulton is gonna win the fight, but it should be a good fight, a little bit more competitive than a Roman fight. But I have Stephen Fulton winning. But let's talk about Inoue. And this is one of the key things I wanted to discuss when I did that breakdown. If Inoue is to beat Donaire in this rematch, which I think he would, I predicted. I made a video. I just did a breakdown, basically predicting that Inoue is going to get a late stoppage. If he is to win, and if he is to go to pick up that WBO strap, I would like, if you think about it, if he can get the timing right, win this last strap after Donaire, if there's a way that he can become undisputed by the end of this year, and Fulton become undisputed by the end of this year, it's a possibility that maybe we can have a fight between Fulton and Inoue at 122, or even at a catchweight. Maybe we can get that fight, because I'm hearing a lot of people say that they want Inoue to go up and fight Fulton. And let me tell you something. If Inoue is to win before Fulton moves up to 126, that'll be something I would love to see. Let me know how you think about what you guys think about that in the comments. Because that's a thing that is very possible. I know they both fight on certain side of the street, whatever, but you know what? I think that is a real fight that can be made. That would be great. And I know Fulton wouldn't be fighting for Inoue's titles, but it would still be a great win to have on his resume, being that Inoue is undefeated and is already a 3-time champ. That would be an excellent win. And for Inoue, he would be a fighter to be undisputed in 2 different divisions. 2 4-belt titles, or 4-belt divisions in the 4-belt era. So there's a lot. That fight would be a big fight if it works out that way. If these guys can win their fights this year and become undisputed, because people are already talking about it. If Inoue goes up, people have been talking about Inoue going up in weight for at least 2 or 3 years now, right? For at least 2 years now. If Inoue can win and they can get something with him and Fulton before Fulton goes up to 126, 2 undisputed champions fighting each other, that'd be crazy. I would love it. Just thought about that this morning. Totally random. I wanted to put that out there. What's up, Kano Loco? What's good? All right. That would be crazy. Yes, that would be crazy, Maker. That would be crazy. All right. Again, I want to give a big shout out to Devin Haney because, I know people are talking about his run. It's not a real run because he didn't go piece by piece and collect each belt. And it's not, again, that's not in his control. He wanted to fight a few years back. It's not in his control. All right. I actually think it was better that he got more experience fighting guys like Jojo Diaz and Jorge Linares. And I think it was good that he got more experience building up. And I think it's made him more a better fighter. All right. What I say to all of that is still, we cannot take away from the fact of how hard it was to get everything done for this fight. Okay. I'm talking about outside of the ring, not in the ring, but outside of the ring. He had every single disadvantage. Okay. He's going in a completely different time zone, fighting. All right. All the drama with him not having his trainer, his father behind him, all of this stuff. Going into the fight, taking a huge pay cut. All right. He had to give up something. And he basically showed the fighters and everybody in the sport that you have to make sacrifices if you want history to be made. And there's other fighters that I've said in since I've had this channel, there's plenty of fighters that I said I want them to do this. And none of them have done it. A lot of fighters are, that money's not worth it. This money is not worth it. That money's not worth it. I'm not changing. I'm not going because they fight on the wrong side of the street. I've heard so many things over the years that made fighters not want to take the risk. Sometimes if you want to be great, you have to make the sacrifice. And Haney knew, I can beat this guy. I'm willing to take the sacrifice and take the pay cut, travel, not go with my father. I'm willing to do as much as possible. And I'm sure there's more. I'm sure there's a whole list of things that I can say about Haney taking this fight. But he made a sacrifice in taking this fight and taking the risk to be great. And I give him much credit for that. Much credit. All right. Again, he didn't go piece by piece. He didn't do what Josh Taylor did. He didn't do what some of these others did, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. He held on to that email title, and that email title went from an email title to an undisputed champion. And I got to give him much credit for that. All right. Whatever it is you don't like about him, I think it was some haters just trying to come on here the other day, late after the fight was over, talking trash about him, talking about what he said about Loma and all that. Listen, yeah, people want to bring something because they're mad that he won. He actually won. All right. But at the end of the day, he's one of the best fighters in the world unless somebody prove that he's not, he's one of the best fighters out there officially, and he won it with a jab. And say what you want, but it took a jab for him to beat a guy like George Kambosos, a guy that just beat Teofimo Lopez. It only took a jab to beat him. That says a lot. I'm looking at it differently. I know a lot of people are looking at it like jab this, jab that. Yo, the jab won the fight. All he needed was a jab to win. But if he fights a guy like a Lomachenko, in my opinion, I think he's going to need a little bit more than just a jab. I don't know. Maybe that's all he needs in that fight too. We'll see. That's if Loma is the same guy. That's if Loma is still even fighting anymore. I got to wait and see. All right. But I think with Teofimo, with Devin Haney, reason why he's one of my favorite fighters is I don't think he's one of my favorite fighters to watch per se. I'm willing to admit that. I think he is one of the best technical fighters out there for sure. But I'm entertained by guys like, and I said this last night or the other night, by Loma and Teofimo Lopez. Oh, not Teofimo. What's his face? Tank Davis. But at the end of the day, this guy was willing to really, really take chances and took a big one, and he gambled with himself. And you got to remember, this is an independent fighter that was doing everything he could to not sign with anyone. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I mean. Like, you got to respect him. You got to respect what he did. Yeah, you have to. So anyway, listen, I'm gonna leave it at that, man. I enjoyed the live. Again, make sure you check out the breakdown that I did with no Donaire and Inoue. That fight is going to be tomorrow morning. I will be here tomorrow at 7 a.m. Eastern time to cover the fight tomorrow morning. The fight is going to be at 7:30 a.m. or 8 a.m. But I will be here early tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Eastern to cover this fight. All right. Maybe a little earlier, but I will be on. All right. I'm going to get up and I'm going to see what's going on with that. But be on the lookout for me tomorrow morning because I'm going to cover Donaire and Inoue too. It's in Japan, so that's the reason why the fight is so early. All right, so be here tomorrow. Again, hit that like button, hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Have a good day. Peace.